All right, what is going on, guys? Today is Wednesday, March 15th, and I wanted to go over my trades today for my Apex evaluation account. So, first, I kind of wanted to outline my plan going into the day, the levels I was looking at, and then how my trades actually played out in respect to those. So if we zoom out here, we had a big sell-off in the pre-market here, basically from the high of 39.64, and sold off pretty much the entire early morning to even to open. And then we started trending the large majority of the day. Two of the levels I was keeping an eye on, obviously, was yesterday's low of day. That's pretty big since we kind of were opening up below that. And then I was also looking at the overnight low. So my original plan number one, was to play the gap fill, which is basically the difference between where you're opening and the previous low of day for the day prior. So my original plan, I did not, unfortunately, I am trading futures so I can trade before the market. So my plan originally was to play off of some sort of rejection off of the overnight low and play targeting the yesterday's low of day. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to trade until after the bell opened. One of my kind of secondary plans that goes along with that gap fill is actually the gap fill reversal, which I missed the entry. I'm not going to lie to you. The entry on this one, I was really uncertain about it because I was trying to make my entries based off of the 5 minute time frame, and I was kind of struggling with my entries, so I completely missed this, and I didn't feel comfortable getting in about halfway down the move. So I'm kind of glad I didn't, because the rest of the day kind of just ended up really choppy, and so I'm just kind of glad that I didn't do that. So the gap fill I didn't really play the gap fill at all. The next two plays, I had a short plan and I had a long plan. The short plan was if we were going to break below this overnight low here at 38.70. Basically, I was going to wait for a break and then a retest of that level, and then I was going to get short if that happened. And I was actually going to get short targeting 38.50. So yes, had we broken down here and then retested this level, I would have gotten short here targeting 38.50, because that's pretty much the next level of resistance that I would have seen that would have caused issues for a trade. So that was my short plan. And then my long plan was the exact opposite, but with the low of day yesterday. And so the plan was if we actually broke above the low of day yesterday, had some buying pressure, and then retested this level, I was going to try to play long. So I had those three scenarios. I had the gap fill, I had the short plan and the long plan. Both the short and the long plan were both off of break and retests. And so basically all day, nothing was happening. My first two or three trades were actually not a part of my plan, and I kind of started to see things kind of build up intraday around this area, and I'll explain that in a second. So I took these trades that were not in my plan, and then later in the day, one of my plans worked, but I had awful execution. I'll tell you about that a little later. So we're going to go into NinjaTrader, and we are going to look at my trades. So this first one's around 12 o'clock, and I'll show you. I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. Alrighty. So let me zoom out even further. All right, so here is my yesterday low of day level, and here is the overnight level right about here, 38.70. So what I was looking here, here's the open. So we played here. This is where I missed the gap, and here's where I missed the gap fill reversal. And then here's just a bunch of chop that I wasn't really interested in. A couple of things to note. We did reject off of 3900, 3906 region here, which was yesterday's low of day. So we kept getting rejected off of that level. So obviously that was playing pretty important. And we also had a couple of rejections off of this level at 3875. One thing to note here was that this rejection at 1050, this huge rejection off of this level, I kind of had that in the back of my mind, and I ended up getting long on these positions with that information. I didn't think we were going to be breaking the low, so what I was waiting for was I was waiting for a similar rejection off of this level, and I was going to take long and try to catch that move all the way back up to the top at the 3906 level, kind of just because we were ranging, and I really just wanted to buy low and sell high. So that's just kind of what I felt comfortable with, since we weren't actually breaking out of the range long or breaking out of the range short. So this first one, I ended up getting stopped out. I was messing with a 6-tick stop loss, and it turns out with the volatility, that is not enough. And I ended up getting stopped out. I was trading 10 MES contracts here long, and I got in a little late, had a bad stop loss. It was too close. I didn't have enough flexibility, and I got stopped out. I still had conviction on the trade in general, so I ended up immediately afterward getting in with my 10-tick stop loss. But it actually turned out that my order quantity automatically defaulted to 1 contract instead of 10. So I ended up getting in immediately afterwards with 1 contract instead of 10. So that nothing really happened with that one. I made like a little bit of money, but I ended up just canceling the contract or canceling it in general. And then we started to sell off afterwards. So obviously it wasn't the right entry, and I probably could have looked for better confirmations. There was no real confirmation that we were going to end up rejecting here. I tried the exact same play after the next move down, and then a rejection up. On this one, I saw a little bit more buying power, buying pressure. And I did see this hammer candle here. So this hammer candle was my indication to get long, and really, again, not a great play here. There was still a little bit more selling to happen, and I probably should have been keeping an eye on Bookmap a little bit more. But hindsight's 2020. So this trade was I was slightly green for this one, and kind of disappointing because I just got in a little early. As you can see, the play ended up moving, working out a little bit later. It just had to drop down to the actual 3870 level. Which is pretty ironic because that was my overnight level that I had set. But after these, I didn't make another trade until almost 2 o'clock. And so I'm still looking at at this point, let me pull up, let's see, 148. So what I'm looking at 148 is a lot of selling pressure here. We were dealing with VWAP a lot of the day. We had several rejections off of VWAP early in the day. Here, a couple of rejections here off of VWAP, rejection here, couple rejections here. So I was seeing this VWAP kind of turning into a trend of struggling to get past VWAP. So I did take a short position here off of VWAP, thinking that was going to be, the appropriate action. And sure enough, I got stopped out pretty quick there. After this, didn't trade for a while. I kind of walked away from the computer, and I needed to be done. Unfortunately, my third plan, my long plan, actually ended up happening. And I will explain it here. I'll show you here, and then I'll go over to Thinkorswim. So as you can see, for the most part of the day, we were inside of this range right here, and we didn't go outside of it. I mean, we maybe peaked out a couple of times, but other than that, it was just a typical range day. So the short play didn't work. I didn't execute on the gap fill or the gap fill reversal, so that didn't happen. I ended up trying to use context clues throughout the day to try to make trades down here to try to play inside of the range, and I ended up shooting myself in the foot. And then later in the day, right here is where one of my pre-market plans would have played out, but I did not execute due to an issue with my daughter not wanting to sleep. So what we had here was we had a ton of buying pressure to finally break VWAP, break yesterday's low of day. I was not trying to play this breakout. That was not the original plan. The original plan was to break through that level and then retest yesterday's low of day at 39.05. And unfortunately, it was right here on this pullback where we actually tested yesterday's low of day, where I had to step away from the computer and get my daughter to sleep. She was not feeling very good. And so I completely missed this. I was pretty upset with myself, but you got to do what you got to do when you're a dad. So I completely missed this play, and that's fine. It would have worked out pretty well. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It would have worked out pretty well because we did have a pretty sharp rejection. We didn't have any continuation, which is fine. I think I've been scalping anyways with this Apex account. But what ended up happening was when I finally got her to sleep, we were testing this level again. And so I actually got long. Let's see my exact entry real quick. My exact entry was on this, at the top of this candle right here. So it was on the actual, what looked to be like a doji candle here. I got long, and on the same candle, I stopped out. So I got long on this candle, and on the very same candle, there was enough of a move for me to get stopped out with 10 ticks. So kind of disappointing in hindsight. I was in a pretty bad mental state when I was making this trade, and almost immediately after getting stopped out, I just kind of slammed my laptop shut. I just closed it, and I said, I let my bad mental state get the best of me. In hindsight, I shouldn't have probably traded at all the past couple of times. If it wasn't in my plan, I should have just not traded. It still would have worked out in hindsight. I could have played a decent, pretty medium-sized scalp, I guess. Or on the third or fourth test of this level, that would have been fine. Either way, looking back, for the most part, I was okay with my plan, not trading if it wasn't in my plan. But definitely as the day went on, my mental state started to slip, and I started to trade things that were not in my plan, and then started to chase things, and really not monitoring my trades as well as I need to, at least with my stops. Like, I think the plan itself, like the actual trade itself, was appropriate, but I did not have the proper stop loss set prior to the trade. And had I set it properly, I wouldn't have gotten stopped out here. I should have just waited for this candle to close and not played any ridiculous games here, but hindsight's 2020. So that's really all I have today. I did lose a couple $100. Again, I am still on my Apex evaluation account, so I am not hurting. This is not my own money, but I'm disappointed in myself because I am not doing well on my evaluation count. But hopefully, if anybody's watching this, you guys can learn things from my mistakes and learn what not to do with these accounts. Otherwise, that's all I have for today. I'll see you next time. Peace.